Majority of us have no idea what do they mean when they say the youth of 76. We all know that people died. We saw on TV what happened, but we don't really know the crux of the matter as to what exactly happened.
The late 70s, early 80s, we had a sort of resurgence of the movement in exile, the ANC movement in exile. I'm just touching on these things because I presume that people, but I'm just giving a perspective. And in communities, what this meant was, many people had lots of intellectual arguments. You had people coming from the Trotskyist movement who said that this is how we interpret the struggle and this is what needs to be done, mainly from the Western and Eastern Cape. Then we had the Black Consciousness movement, which was sort of almost crushed by all the bannings in 77, after 76. So a new sort of emergence of political formations in the country and consciousness. Now, people like myself who was there before then sort of brought this through into this new kind of way of looking at things. And we started working, or some of our colleagues started working in the trade union movement and strengthened that kind of resistance there on the shop floor, on the factory floor. Some people went into communities, and based on some of the older BPC community organizations, combined with a new thinking in terms of the M plan, saying that we've got to organize street committees and the rest of it. Quite powerful movements emerged. By 1973, we had the formation of CUSA, which was the Congress, the Black Consciousness Union, conglomerate of unions, and then of course by 1983, COSATU was formed. And it was all about political power. And many of us saw that, although that is important, we've got to have political power at some stage. We've got to look at how we're going to achieve that and how we're going to maintain that. In a modern word, sustainability wasn't as widely used at the time, but that comes to mind now. How do we sustain that revolution that we are busy with? Because we, for all intents and purposes, were engaged in a revolution all the time.
Mandela could come out because he was part of a group. And part of creating a space like Miela, so that when people say, yeah, we saw you on such and such a forum, talking and being critical, the rest of us can say, yes, that voice, even if it doesn't say what I was saying, but we stand firmly behind you in saying young people have to have the spaces to speak, forums such as this. And I think there again, it's like where we are creating communities, not necessarily institutions. I think also another thing that we're battling with is that if then you're not going to be a single individual, you then have to become institutionalized. And saying, no, you can be part of a community of people that will back you and be behind you. But without us having to lay down the law to say these are the rules according to what we think. We're not trying to be youth leagues, and I think rather for us to be looking at your community with girlfriends, with community within school, your community outside of that space.
Do you feel as though you have the space to express those challenges, or that anything can be done? And have you done anything about it yourself?
Actually, they'd advise us not to say anything because we're learnership students. Mm-hmm. And being a learnership student, you don't have privileges like any worker. You don't get a warning. A friend of mine was just dismissed.
Yeah.
So that's what they say, that we just got dismissed because of this. You do not have that liberty to actually come forward and say, let me debate or contest what my manager is actually saying about me, because I think that is irrelevant. In my company, you have to be two races to be actually acknowledged, or your comment to be heard. It's either you white or you Indian. If you're black, you just deserve to take whatever that they give you and be happy about you getting a salary or a stipend at the end of the month.
Because you know what I'm saying is that very often I notice, because I've worked like a lot of, actually I did work at a logistics company myself, And what I find is that, like, us black people, we have our arguments when we're having lunch. You know, we'll all go to the warehouse and we'll talk about how angry we are about this and this and that. But then when you come out and you say something, you find that you're on your own in the cold. Whereas if we all said it together, then it would be, and I know that you don't have a position of power as a leadership student. In numbers, you would have a position of power. But how are we able to pull those numbers together to actually be heard, you know? So I don't know, because it's nice to speak about ideas, but sometimes it's nice to speak about specific situations and how we deal with them as black youth as well.
The weakness with our democracy is we are always standing on opposite sides. Like, if I'm pro ANC, if the DA does something good, I cannot take it because it comes from the DA. Or if I'm DA and the ANC does something good, I just criticize for the fact that it's the ANC. But I think my point is, how do we begin to learn to be critical and take the good things that even our enemies or the people we don't like are doing and apply it in our lives?